What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. If you're stopping by the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing to my channel. And while you're at it, smash that like button for me. I really would appreciate it. Also, hit that post notification bell so that you're notified every time I upload a new video. Guys, here to tell you, man, looks like the Fed, or at least one of the Fed FOMC members, says the Fed should cut rates in July. That's right, man. I'm talking about a Fed rate cut in July. But hold on. He's just one member of the FOMC. He can't make that decision by himself. But I'll walk you through what I'm talking about here and why this Fed FOMC member wants the Fed to cut rates. He's going on record saying that in July. You're talking about next month. Do you know what that would do to the markets? Do you know what that would do for short-term debt? Come on, man. Here's the headline. Stocks gain as Fed's Waller sees rate cut soon. Trump delays Iran strike decision. Now, you would think those two things right there would be a positive catalyst for the market. But if you're looking at the market today, you can see that not so much. Not so much, right? We got a sea of red. But why? You got Fed rate cut, or at least one of the members of the FOMC saying that we should cut rates in July. And then you got Trump saying that, hey, we're not going to make a decision right now if we're going to get involved in the Iran-Israel conflict in the Middle East, right? Those two things should be a tailwind for the market today, but unfortunately, it's not. Now, the first 30 minutes today, 9:30, when the market opened, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, we thought we were going to have a rally day because things jumped out really, really green. But within about 15 minutes of market opening, things started to fizzle. And then that sea of red started slowly coming in. And right now, we're engulfed in a sea of red. And I'm not sure why, but let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this Fed rate cut. But in order to do that, let's get through that first 15 minutes of the stock market this morning where we thought we were going to see a rally. Stocks moved higher on Friday after Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller said inflation was tame enough that the central bank could cut rates at its next meeting, a more optimistic view than Chair Jerome Powell gave on Wednesday. Now, here's the thing you got to think about. Now we're starting to see members of the FOMC back Donald Trump. That's what we're starting to see now. Christopher Waller, this is a Fed governor, guys. He's coming out on public record and backing 47. Now, he didn't say he's backing 47, but his actions are indicating he is for rate cuts right now, which is completely opposite from what Jerome Powell said on Wednesday in his press conference. Can you see kind of where this thing is going? You got Fed members, Christopher Waller, and then you got the Fed chair saying one thing, Christopher Waller saying something else. He's a Fed governor. He's a voting member on the FOMC for rate cuts. This guy is a voting member. And he is disagreeing with the Fed chair. This is unprecedented, guys. We've not seen this. We've not seen a Fed governor come out on public record saying that he believes, and I quote, Waller said inflation was tame enough that the central bank could cut rates at its next meeting, a more optimistic view than Chair Jerome Powell gave on Wednesday. Again, guys, unprecedented. You normally do not see this type of disagreement among FOMC voting members. So what does that mean for rate cuts? I think what you're going to start seeing, guys, is more voting members of the FOMC come out on record siding with President Trump. That's what I think you're going to start seeing. And one of the reasons I believe you're going to start seeing more of that is because Chair Powell's term as chair of the Federal Reserve is coming, it'll be ending next year in 2026. It's done. It's done. His term is done. So now what you're going to start seeing is people trying to jockey position to become the next chair of the Federal Reserve. Now, there's some mention that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent could be the next Fed chair. But Bessent has went on record saying, I'm pretty comfortable as, Treasury Secretary, as opposed to, Federal Reserve chair, which is supposedly separate from the United States government, right? The Federal Reserve is a separate body that's not controlled by the federal government. At least that's what they tell us. So now you're starting to see a little bit of tension in the Federal Reserve FOMC. I'm talking about voting members. Chris Waller is a voting member. He votes on rate cuts. And he's coming out on record saying, hey, man, inflation is tame. Yeah, I think we should cut rates in July. And all that's doing, guys, is putting more pressure on who? Jerome Powell. And listen, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty confident that President Trump is going to come out on social media and use this Chris Waller saying that inflation is tame and that the central bank should cut rates at its next meeting. Trump's going to use that. He's going to use that against Jerome Powell. And see, what's going to start happening is you're going to have people in the FOMC voting members who are going to believe rate cuts are necessary, and then you're going to have people over here that believe it's not necessary. And now you're going to start having some potential conflict inside of the Federal Reserve. That's what we see brewing right here, with Waller coming out on record saying he disagrees basically with the Fed chair, which you don't normally see that, guys. So Trump, the pressure that Trump has been putting on the Federal Reserve is starting to crack the Federal Reserve. And I would not be surprised in July if we don't get rate cuts. I would not be surprised, guys. Now that Waller has went on record, I'm talking about a Fed governor, a voting member, has went on record. I think you're going to start seeing more Fed voting members of the FOMC come on record and support rate cuts now, as opposed to later. We're going to have to watch this, guys, because I think we may get rate cuts in July based on this. And I'm telling you, Trump is going to continue putting pressure, real pressure on them to reduce rates. He's going to continue. Now he's going to even intensify it since he has Chris Waller basically on his side. We'll have to see how many more voting members of the Federal Reserve, FOMC, back Waller and back Trump. Some kind of way, man, Trump always figures out a way to get his way. And now he's going to get these rate cuts that he's been screaming about. Now, I don't know if he'll get no 2.5% like he's, said yesterday. He won't get that. But could he get 25 basis points in July? Maybe even 50 basis points in July? We'll have to see, guys. You can't rule it out when you start seeing Federal Reserve FOMC committee members going on record saying they believe we should have a rate cut in July. You normally don't see that, guys. I just got to continue to stress that. Normally, that's not normal. But what's happening is Trump pressure. See, Trump has intensified that pressure on him. And now people are starting to say, well, it's the Federal Reserve's fault. It's the Federal Reserve's fault that we're in this situation we're in because they won't reduce rates. That's what's happening. People are starting to say it's the Federal Reserve's fault. It's not the administration's fault. It's the Fed's fault. The administration are asking the Fed to reduce rates to make everything skyrocket. And as long as the administration keeps saying that, keeps putting that message out over and over and over, what starts to happen, guys? People start believing it. People start putting the finger on Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell and the Fed. That's what's going to happen. You're already starting to see it happen. Traders also bid stocks higher slightly as oil prices pulled back, with 47 saying he would hold off deciding on Iran strike. International benchmark Brent crude oil slid more than 3%. U.S. crude oil slid more than 0.2%. So oil prices pulled back. Why? Because 47 went on record and said, hey, give us 2 weeks. We'll make a decision on whether we're going to join this thing with Israel against Iran. So he delayed making a decision on that for a couple of weeks, which in turn did what? Took pressure off of oil prices, took pressure off of barrels of oil, the price for a barrel of oil. It took pressure off of that because they know if the United States doesn't officially commit to this war, then there's a possibility that the Middle East can continue producing oil. Why? Because 20 to 30% of all the oil in the world comes out of the Middle East. That's why. So with Trump saying that, we're going to put a pause. We're going to delay, see if we can negotiate more. That takes pressure off of oil prices. Oil prices start coming down, which is a good thing for inflation. Why? Because you got to understand energy is a big component of inflation, just like the cost of housing is a big component of inflation. So energy and the cost of housing, shelter, are probably your two biggest components of inflation. So if you bring down oil prices, what does that do? It makes energy more inexpensive. Now, it's still expensive, but it's not as expensive if oil was $75 a barrel. With oil being $62, $63, $64 a barrel, energy prices come down, right? So those two things, like I said, you would have thought would have been a tailwind. And I think in the first 15 minutes the market was open, it was a tailwind. But then the market decided to go a different direction. And right now, that's why you see a sea of red out there, with the exception of, core weave. That's the only thing that's green today is core weave. And I know that's not the whole story, guys. So I'm just throwing that in there. You go out and do your own research. This is not financial advice. I'm just giving you my little 2 cents. When I'm looking at the market today, at least the things that I've looked at, pretty much everything is in the red except core weave. And why that is, I don't know. I'm not an expert here. I'm just a guy on YouTube giving you my opinion. You guys go out and do your own homework. What I will say is I planted seeds already. And sometimes those seeds harvest in 30 minutes. Sometimes those seeds harvest in 2 weeks. So I'm patient. I planted the seeds in the right fertile, soil, the best soil in the world. I planted some seeds. And hopefully next week we'll get a harvest. I doubt I get a harvest today because, the market, for whatever reason, is not very enthusiastic today, to say the least. But let's keep moving here. Let's keep moving here. The Dow Jones Industrial Average traded 181 points higher. I would ask you to go take a look at it now. When the market opened, yes, but now, I don't think so. Matter of fact, let's take a look at it right now, just to see where it's at. Because this morning it traded higher, but let's see what it's doing right now. Let's see where we're at today. It's about 20 points higher right now. So it's not 181 points higher like it was this morning, but still in positive territory. So the Dow is hanging in there. What about the S&P? The Dow is still hanging in there. What about the S&P? Because I know the S&P is considered the broader stock market. So let's take a look at the S&P and see what it's doing right now. S&P ain't doing as well. S&P is down 19.72 points. So it's down about 0.33. That's the S&P. Now let's take a look at the NAS. See what the NASDAQ is doing and see where we're at today with the NAS. Right now, the NAS is down by 120 points or 0.61% down today. So you got two of the three major indexes currently right now, as I'm doing this video, are down when they started out this morning a little bit higher. So it's just one of those days where, it's the day after a holiday and, going into the weekend. Maybe you have some people de-risking. I don't know. You have to get out there and do your little homework, but I think people are kind of de-risking. And could it be a seed planting day? Potentially, right? Because I still believe when you got the Fed, at least one of the Fed members, Christopher Waller, coming out saying he supports rate cuts in July, guys. That's next month. That's at the Fed meeting next month. That should be a positive catalyst. When you have 47, the president of the United States coming out saying, we're not going to join this war conflict in the Middle East right now. We're going to wait 2 weeks. Oil prices come down. That should be a positive catalyst, in my opinion. Markets should be taking that information, in my opinion, and going higher, but they're not. So must be something else going on, right? But is there a potential for seed planters, for retail seed planters? Is there an opportunity for retail seed planters? I think it is. That's just my little 2 cents. I'm no expert here. This is not financial advice. This is just a guy on YouTube. But I think maybe there's a delayed reaction. What do I mean by that? I think there's a delayed reaction on the decision of rate cuts in July, which is fantastic news, right? And then we're not getting in this war conflict right now, which should be fantastic news. 2 pieces of fantastic news, and the only thing that's doing anything is CoreWeave. So I think there's a delayed reaction that maybe, I don't know, maybe kicks in next week. I don't know. You guys have to figure that one out. So here we go. Those moves come after Waller said that the central bank could cut rates as early as July. Again, guys, if you had listened to Federal Reserve Chair Powell on Wednesday, you would have not thought we would get rate cuts in July. Now, that doesn't mean we will get rate cuts in July, but I'm telling you, when you got a Fed governor, a voting member, this is the key, guys, a voting member, not just a Federal Reserve person that's in the Federal Reserve that don't have a vote. This guy got a vote, and he's a Fed governor, going on record saying rate cuts as early as July. Quote, here's a quote, Fed Governor Waller, quote, I think we're in the position that we could do this as early as July, Waller said during a Squawk Box interview. That would be my view. Whether the committee would go along with it or not, he added. You know what that says to me, guys? Right now, behind closed doors, you got Fed chair, you got the Fed chair and the people that support him with wait and see, no rate cuts, wait and see. And then now you got a separate group of FOMC voting members like Waller on this side saying, let's cut right now. We agree with Trump. Let's cut right now. So you got two groups in there. The question is, which group wins? Which group wins? Remember, this is a voting committee. Fed chair doesn't get the final say, and he don't just make the decision on his own. They vote on it. It's a vote. It's voted. They got to vote on this thing. So I think Waller and whoever's with Waller will be making their case to other voting members to cut rates. That's what I think. And again, that piece of information right there, in my opinion, should be a positive catalyst. It should be. Whether it is or not, clearly today it's not. Because you would think the S&P and the NAS would be greener pastures. Right now they're a sea of red, right? So we got to keep watching that as the month continues to roll on here in June and see what happens. Here we go. Fed Chair Jerome Powell said Wednesday the central bank was in no hurry to cut benchmark rates and will remain data dependent, especially as it remains unclear on how Trump's tariffs will impact the economy. Stocks closed slightly lower that day following those remarks. And guess what? The next day we had a holiday, which was yesterday. Now all of a sudden the market opens on Friday, first 15 minutes, you got neon green on you. Neon green everywhere. And then all of a sudden you get around 9:45, 10 a.m., sea of red. I don't know what's going on, but we got to continue to watch this, right? Trump ripped into Powell again Thursday. See what I told you? I told you. Trump ripped into Powell again Thursday, saying that Fed chair is costing the U.S. hundreds of billions of dollars by delaying rate cuts. Let's go back to what I just said. See, y'all got to understand, guys, one thing Trump does very, very, very well, and I got to give him credit for this. He's a master at it. Propaganda. He is the best at propaganda I've ever seen in my life. Even when he was doing The Apprentice. He sold that show because of him. That's why The Apprentice was such a popular reality show, guys, because of Trump. And see, Trump has taken that skill set and he understands the American people. And he knows all he has to do is continue to drive his point home and continue to beat up in public Fed Chair Jerome Powell, and Trump understands that eventually people will believe him. And that's what's happening. When have you ever seen a sitting president of the United States get on social media, public corporate television, wherever, and call out the Federal Reserve Chairman? Biggest loser, too late Powell, he's a disaster. All of this stuff is targeted and orchestrated to do what? To put pressure on the Federal Reserve to reduce rates. And guess what Trump gonna get? He gonna get them rates reduced. That's all it is. See, he's gonna continue to attack Powell. And what happens is once you start doing that, people start thinking that it is the Fed's fault. I'm just telling you how human nature is. People tell you something long enough, especially the president. Whether y'all like him or not, the guy got 80 million votes. So somebody out there voted for him. Somebody out there like him. And again, like I said, I'm not saying anything about anybody. I'm just telling you the psychology that's being used here on the Federal Reserve, and President Trump is a master at it. He's a master at painting his own picture for the American public. And that's what he's doing right now. And guess what's starting to happen? You're starting to see Federal Reserve governors, Chris Waller, voting member of the FOMC, go on public record disagreeing with Fed Chair Jerome Powell. When have you ever seen that? And you know why that's happening? Because of that pressure Trump keep putting on them. See, that pressure Trump putting on them, Trump putting that pressure on them, telling the American people, these people are preventing you from having a better life. They're preventing you from lowering your interest rates on your credit cards. They're preventing you from getting a lower interest rate on your car loans. They're preventing you from buying a home. This is basically what Trump is telling the American people, and the American people starting to believe it. Even the Fed chair, not the Fed chair, but the Fed governor, Chris Waller, is starting to believe it. But this is what Trump is very, very good at, is taking his grievances to the American people and making a case for himself. And that's what he's done. Basically telling the American people, here it is. Let me tell you exactly what I'm talking about. Let me go back to it here. Here it is right here. Trump ripped into Powell again on Thursday. That was yesterday, saying that the Fed chair is costing the U.S. hundreds of billions of dollars. What do you think he's telling the American people? Listen, guys, this guy is costing y'all hundreds of billions of dollars. That's basically what he's telling the American people every single day, doubling down on it. This guy, the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, is costing you money. He is the one that's responsible for your high credit card interest rate, your high car loan rate, your high mortgage rates. Whether that's true or not, guys, it's all about perception. It's all about what you can get people to believe. And then Powell is on the other end saying, hey guys, we're just trying to make sure we don't get inflation to go back up. But see, most people don't even get the whole inflation thing. But most people can get, I'm paying more for my mortgage rate. I'm paying more for my credit card rate. I'm paying more for my car loan rate. Why? Because we have $18 trillion in consumer debt in this country. 18 trillion. Can you imagine on $18 trillion, you reduce rates by 1% on $18 trillion, guys? That's what Trump is talking about. That's where the billions and billions of dollars saved will come from. Listen, guys, I'm just giving you what my opinion is. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, bad or good. I'm just telling you, this is what makes Trump so compelling to just your average, everyday person out there. Because see, he don't sugarcoat it. He just comes straight out and boom. And a lot of people are attracted to that. Because most times politicians, they're going to beat around the bush, they're going to hide stuff from you, and they're going to tell you the whole truth. Don't get me wrong. All politicians do that. But some of them are just masters at really driving their point home in a simple way that makes sense to people. And that's what Trump does. So Trump comes out and says the United States is billions of dollars because you keep interest rates high. Too late, Powell. Powell is saying, no, we're going to keep rates where they're at because we understand it's going to be even more detrimental to our economy if we decrease rates right now and inflation goes up. But see, most people don't see because they don't even know what inflation is. Most people don't, right? Most people don't know what inflation is. Most people hear I can get a lower interest rate on my car loan. I can get a lower interest rate on my home mortgage. I can get a lower interest rate on my credit cards. I'm for that. Most people don't know about no inflation. What does that mean? Right? So that's the tug of war that we're in right now. That's the tug of war. Investors fear Investors' fear around the conflict between Israel and Iran, which has yet to cool, were tamed after Trump said Thursday that he would decide whether to strike Iran within the next 2 weeks, but wanted to allow for a substantial chance of negotiations. Again, guys, that right there is good news. Should be good news. That should be good news for the market. All right? That should be good news. Fed rate cut in July should be good news. Now, again, there's no guarantee of any of those things happening. But you got to understand, guys, we respond to things that we want to hear. We want to hear rate cuts. The American people want rate cuts. If you go out and ask 10 people, hey, would you be in favor for rate cuts right now? People 10 out of 10 are going to say yes. Let's cut rates. Ain't nobody going to say nothing about no inflation. They're going to say, yeah, let's cut rates. Why? Because that benefits me right now. If you go out and ask people about the Iran-Israel, you might get different opinions on that, depending upon where people stand politically and where they stand on other things. I don't know about that one. But it should be positive news that America's not getting into a war conflict. That should be positive news. Clearly it is, because oil prices came down. As soon as he said that, oil prices started coming down. So that's good news. Why? Because if oil prices come down, like I told y'all earlier, what does this do to energy prices? They come down. Oil prices go up. What happens to energy prices? Go up. Pretty simple. See what I'm saying? 47 know that. He's a master at this thing with people. With everyday average people, the guy is a master at doing this. Whether you like him or not, I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm just telling you what in my opinion, he's a master at getting people to understand in the simplest form what he's trying to do. And that's why 80 million people voted for him. Now, whether he does that or not, that's debatable, right? Whether he does everything he said he was going to do is debatable. But the guy has been attacking Jerome Powell for months, relentlessly, calling him everything in the book other than his name. And guess what? Now you're starting to see FOMC members starting to agree with Trump by saying, yeah, we think inflation is low enough. Yeah, we should consider lowering rates in July meeting. You're going to start seeing more of that, by the way. That's my prediction. You're going to see more of that. That's my prediction. You're going to see more of that. So get ready for it. Just get yourself in position and get ready for it, right? Because I think you're going to see more of that. Get yourself in position, be ready for it. Anything could happen. I don't think we're going to see the market do anything spectacular today, but perhaps next week, maybe that delayed good news will kick in. Who knows? Who knows? Fed Chair Jerome Powell said Wednesday the central bank was in no hurry to cut rates and will remain data dependent, especially as it remains unclear on Trump's tariffs will impact the economy. Stocks closed slightly lower that day following those remarks. That was Wednesday. And I just told you what Trump said. Powell is costing the United States billions of dollars, right? However, tensions still remain high in Israel, right? You got tensions are still high, and that conflict out there in the Middle East is still not under control yet. That's going to impact us, guys. Just to let you know, that will impact us, right? Any conflicts like that impact us. They impact us. So as long as that conflict is going on, it's going to impact us. Now, can you get that resolved? I don't know. Who knows? Right? Above my pay grade. But all I can tell you is get yourself in a position so that you are able to continue to take care of you and your family, right? Opportunities are there. If you decide to put your head in the sand and not look at any opportunities, that's your opinion. That's your choice. Personally, I'm not going to put my head in the sand. I'm going to keep my head above the sand, and I'm going to look for opportunities to plant seeds, just like I did today. I planted seeds. Probably won't get a harvest today, but I hope next week, with this bit of good news about potential rate cut in July, whether it's real or not, guys, it's about perception. See, this is what you've got to start understanding. In my opinion, a lot of what happens in our stock market is based on what? Perception. It's based on momentum. It's based on what could happen, right? That's a big part of the stock market. So if the market believes there's an opportunity and the percentage goes up that there potentially can be rate cuts in July, that's optimism. Optimism fuels the stock market. Optimism. Now, pessimism can fuel it as well in the opposite direction. So right now, if you look at the fear indicator, which, let me take a look at that. Let's see what the fear indicator says. I don't know if I can get it in here or not, but let me check. Let me see if I can find it. See what the fear indicator says. Yeah, the fear indicator, listen, the fear and greed indicator is sitting at about 52. There it is right there for you guys that don't believe I'm looking at it. It's sitting at about 52. So that's neutral. That's neutral. They're just telling you that the difference between greed and fear is neutral. It's right down the middle. Not a lot of greed, not a lot of fear. People are just sitting there at neutral. That's where we're at right now, 52 on that scale, on that market sentiment scale. That just tells me this thing could go either way. So for me, it's an opportunity for me to plant a few seeds. A lot of people like to wait until the fear indicator is off the charts because of what Warren Buffett said. Be greedy when others are fearful, and be fearful when others are greedy. And you can look at that market sentiment, that fear greed indicator, and kind of get an idea of what Buffett is talking about. Right now, there's not a lot of greed nor a lot of fear. It's just sort of right there in the middle. It's neutral. So opportunity, maybe, I don't know. You have to look at your own financial situation and determine that. That's not my job to figure that out for you. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy on YouTube giving you my little 2 cents. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. And like I said, man, if you guys are interested in joining my Wealth Builders financial community, get yourself down to that first link in the description box of this video. Go to the first link. You'll see the link for my Wealth Builders financial community on Patreon. And all we do in that community is talk to one another about what? Getting the financial freedom and ultimately passive income and how to do that. Again, none of us are experts. I'm not an expert. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a CFP. I'm none of those things. I'm just a guy who's been investing in assets for 30 years to build my wealth to a point where passive income is a part of my daily life. And I just work with about 2,000 other people on my platform, and they're headed that same direction, which is financial freedom. Again, all we do in that community is talk about best practices, golden nuggets, tips, what's working, what's not working, right? And we provide a safe place for people to have those discussions free of anybody trying to sell you anything. There are no courses being sold there. There are nothing. It's a community of people that we've come together just to discuss how to build wealth and build wealth in a traditional standpoint. So if you want to be a part of that, just get to that first link down in the description box and click on that link, which is the Wealth Builders Financial Community on Patreon. Sign up, send me a DM when you sign up and introduce yourself. Let me know who you are, because I don't do any of that stuff on the YouTube channel anymore. I don't do any, if you send me emails and all that stuff, If you want to have access to me and have access to the real game that I don't discuss here on YouTube, which I don't, that get access to me for the real game, you got to come to the Patreon site. That's where you can ask me all the questions you want to ask me through direct message, you and I. And then the good news is you got another couple thousand people in the community chat that you can drop questions in the community chat and others will chime in and give you their opinion. Again, no one's an expert here. No one's trying to be. No one's going to say, oh, golly, come tell me everything to do. We're not going to tell you everything to do. You got to tell you what to do. That's not our responsibility. Don't put your wealth building journey on our back. You have to figure it out on your own, but it's nice to be able to ask questions and get some input based on others' experience. That's what we do in the Wealth Builders financial community. You get out of it what you put in. If you get over there and you're just going to be a wallflower and don't ask no questions and don't participate, you ain't going to learn nothing. You're not going to get any benefit out of it. But if you're willing to say, hey, man, here's my question. Here's what I'm trying to get accomplished. What are you guys doing? And then just take ownership of your own wealth building journey. See, a lot of people want to push their wealth building journey and give ownership to somebody else so they can have somebody to blame. That's what we do a lot in this country. We try to find others to blame for our problems that we created for ourselves. We want somebody else to blame. Oh, that guy on YouTube said to buy it. No, I ain't told you to buy nothing. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. Right? So if you want to be a part of that community, and I'm just going to keep it real 100 with you guys. I'm not going to lie to you or sugarcoat it. Building wealth is not easy. It's hard. If it wasn't hard, everybody would be at financial freedom. Everybody would be there. There's a reason 150 million Americans have no retirement savings, because it's hard. But it would be nice to have a community that you could talk to about building wealth and get real good input, not tell you what to do. Oh my God, you should be telling me what to do. I want someone to tell me what to do. Then don't sign up. Don't join us. Don't watch my YouTube channel no more. Because my YouTube channel is not about telling you what to do. My YouTube channel is about discussing ideas, giving you information. And then what you do with that information is on you. Stop trying to blame other people for whatever your shortcomings are financially. We have a problem with that in our community. We want to blame other people for our own shortcomings. No, blame you. Good news is you can change it. Stop blaming people for everything that's happened to you and change your life. You have the ability to do that. All right? So if you want accountability, somebody that's going to tell you the truth, then join the Wealth Builders. If you want somebody that's just going to tell you what you want to hear and you can put everything on them to do everything for you, then go find somebody else to talk to. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in people who are going to take financial ownership of their own financial journey, but want someone there or a group of people there that they can bounce questions off of and ideas and get some feedback. But ultimately, it belongs to them, right? If you're interested in that, first link, Wealth Builders Financial Community, come join us. We'd love to have you. Stop by the channel for the first time. Please consider subscribing, share the video, smash the like button. Thoughts become things. If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hands. Guys, never stop believing in yourself. Never stop chasing your greatness. Stay healthy, get wealthy, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.